joining us today for this installment of the PGH Lab Resource Roundup, number 2 for us this year. We're really excited to have you all join us today. And just as a general FYI, this will be recorded. So 1, you'll have it for your posterity's sake, and then 2, we'll be sharing it out with our larger PGH Lab audience. For those of you that don't know, my name is Trevor Stahl. I'm the Civic Innovation Specialist here, and I'm here with my colleague, Ala Mohammed.
Hey everyone, I'm Ala Mohammed. I am a Senior Civic Innovation Specialist here at the City of Pittsburgh. We're excited to have this intimate group gathering to speak with Regina a little bit about what the Financial Empowerment Center can be used for to help small businesses and startups. So I'm just going to turn things over to Regina. I will say Regina actually specifically said she welcomes questions throughout the conversation. So it's just going to be an open dialogue, really informal. And Regina, I'll hand things over to you.
My name is Regina Carmine. I'm one of the 5 counselors with the Pittsburgh Financial Empowerment Center. I do have a slideshow that I'm going to bring up. All right, I'd like to tell you about the Pittsburgh Financial Empowerment Center. But if I may, I'm going to tell you a little bit about me first, only because I'm the newest, not the youngest, but the newest of the counselors with the Pittsburgh Financial Empowerment Center. I've been a counselor, financial counselor, housing counselor for about 15 years now. And to be perfectly honest with you, I was working elsewhere when the idea of the FECs came along. And I remember every nonprofit, every counseling organization out there was just chomping at the bit, hoping we could get that. However, by good fortune for us in Pittsburgh, it fell to an agreement between the City of Pittsburgh, Neighborhood Allies, Advantage Consumer Credit Counseling. That's what brought the Financial Empowerment Center to Pittsburgh. And that's who's handling it now. The CFE fund, the Cities for Financial Empowerment Fund that you see, actually started this program in New York City in 2008. It was from the Bloomberg Philanthropies. And the general idea is that everyone should have access to high quality financial counseling. All righty. I've got all sorts of notes. I'm a former school teacher. I've got tons of information sitting around me. So I apologize if I'm looking elsewhere. And I also apologize if the statistics I throw out become a bit cumbersome. But as of today, the figures we've got is that 64% of all Americans live paycheck to paycheck. And that's actually up from December of 2021. And we all know, of course, that finances are in a rocky state, which is why to have this stability in this education is an incredibly important thing. Not only that, but finances are not taught in public schools. So as a result of that, it's even more important that we do that. This is the team. This is what we've got. This is who we're working with. And as you can see, we've got a cross section of counselors from different places, different decades with different bodies of experience. The first member of our team is Kristen Griffith, and we are all currently working online, remote counseling, phone counseling, Teams meetings. However, word on the street is we'll be back in offices sometime late this fall, and they're hashing out the details right now. In addition to Kristen, we've got Alicia Donner. Akuma is our senior counselor. She's been around the longest. Our manager is Amber Book. Jennifer is also one of our fine counselors, and I'm the one lurking off on the end. I do want to let you all know that we are all certified by the NACCC. That's the National Association of Certified Credit Counseling. And that NACC test was not an easy test to pass. And I can vouch for that because I took it most recently, and because in addition to having this certification, each of the individual counselors you have there have independent certifications as well in different counseling, collections accounts. Me personally, I'm certified through the Department of Housing and Urban Development and the Pennsylvania Housing Finance Agency. We've got counselors who specialize in student loans. So we've just got a body of knowledge that's actually impressive. And I do just want to make note that, our certifications, and I have this on a document next to me, cover basic money management, banking and financial transactions, credit reporting, and the components of that, debt collections, student loans, bankruptcies, retirement planning, investment, home ownership, mortgages, insurance and public benefits. So we actually have a vast body of knowledge. However, we are not retirement planners. We are not bankruptcy attorneys. So one of the things that we really do master is outsourcing, pointing out people in the right direction to get additional information. So what we do is we have 4 main components. Some people call it 4 buckets of our emphasis, our 4 key service areas. And they are basically related to debt, savings, credit, and banking. So in each of those fields, each of our appointments is client driven. And our first appointment with an individual is really getting to know them and them telling us where it is that they think that they might need to have some help. So again, those are the 4 components we work in, and any big goal is actually covered by these, whether that goal is opening a business, home ownership, anything along those lines is covered by these four components of financial stability. The nice thing that's noted on this slide as well is that our clients work with us as long as they like. The first appointment is a pretty heady fact-finding mission. And after that, we meet on a monthly basis, check in, how's it working out? How's that app working? How are you doing with your savings? Some of our folks we meet with 4 to 6 months. A few of our longer standing counselors have been meeting with clients for actually a couple of years until they're comfortable and they get where it is that they want to go financially. This is, I think, the best part of what we do, in that it is not limited. It's not limited by income or a huge geographic area. It's for anyone who's in Allegheny County. And aside from living in Allegheny County, they have to be over the age of 18. That's really about it. Ideally, we want somebody who is earnest in their interest in improving their financial concerns, someone who's interested in learning better money management skills. And as you see at the bottom, phone interpretations available for a variety of situations. Ideally, even though we don't turn anyone away, even if they might be a hard nut to crack, so to speak, we want folks who have time to commit to budget and tracking. I like to say that we don't hold hands, but if that's what someone needs, we can do that. We can talk to them about their bills. We usually don't go through boxes full of receipts for them, but we tailor the tools to the individuals that we're working with. And we want folks who are interested in really keeping track of their spending, watching their budget, someone who has a reliable source of income. And even if they're not, we work with folks on a crisis budget or a priority budget necessity if they're temporarily unemployed or something along those lines. Ideally, someone with a phone or a computer with internet. My favorite are the Teams meetings so that we can hold up information and show it to them, share them screenshots and so on. But we work with folks over the phone. And as I mentioned earlier, even with interpreters. And the third point that you see here might seem a little odd, but we want folks who have the mental and emotional space to talk about their finances. I don't know about any of you, and I won't put you on the spot, but money is not an easy thing to talk about. Not exactly sure why. Again, our schools don't teach that. A lot of our parents don't sit us down and talk about it. And when we're comfortable talking about, well, when I was a kid, you weren't supposed to talk about politics and religion, but we're far more comfortable talking about those than we are about money. So we try to make sure that folks are comfortable knowing that there's no judgment going on. This is definitely a judgment-free zone. And that's another one of the wonderful things about the 5 counselors on staff is between the 5 of us, we've all experienced just about every one of life's ups and downs. And because of that, we're a little more empathetic and understanding. So it's ongoing. We are accredited professionals. This is another issue that, and we'll talk more about this when we talk about the business component of things. There are a lot of bad actors out there, a lot of scammers who take advantage of people in promising to fix their credit for them, promising to help them with a budget, things along those lines, even scammers who promise to help people get business accounts set up and to get reasonable student loan payments. We are entirely accredited, and that's one of the things that I do express because, that really is something that differentiates us from other services. It is highly individualized, judgment-free. Everything is confidential. Of course, we share aggregate information with our partners so that they know the big pictures and the big numbers. And in addition to that, you have an accountability partner. And the one that I always refer to when I think of this is that even weight loss programs show a greater degree of success if someone's doing it with you. Now, we're not necessarily tracking our spending with our clients simultaneously. However, they know that we'll check up on them and they can let us know if they found a cheaper cell phone plan or something like that. And again, and this goes to tie in with what we're talking about today in the small business initiatives, we have a tremendous number of resource referrals, tremendous. When we're covering somebody's spending plan and we see that they're paying $300 for an internet plan, it's our job to help, and we don't pick out one or the other. We'll send them a link that will connect them to 10 different possible payment cell phone plans, internet plans that can save them hundreds of dollars a month. There is an awful lot out there and so many resources available. And we compile them together. The 5 counselors, we're kind of getting a nice library of information together, and we all rely upon one another as well whenever we have good sources to share. The initial session, as I pointed out a little bit ago, is a very comprehensive session. It's about 1.5 hours long. And during that session, we collect a lot of background information. And something that it took me a while to get used to when I started here was that we complete this form that's called a financial health assessment. It's the 3rd point down. And the financial health assessment actually is kind of a hodgepodge of questions that is very telling about an individual's needs. Whether they share finances with someone in the family, whether there are disabilities in the family, things along those lines, whether they're behind on their rent payment. So we conduct this financial health assessment, which is a list of 20 or 30 questions. And for individuals, one of the questions in the financial health assessment is, do you plan on becoming an entrepreneur or a business owner? And for individuals who answer yes to that question, or if they already are, we then also collect information for a small business assessment, which is another list of questions, which is very telling to us, which lets us know if they are already working with an organization to help set up their business plan, if they already have an EIN number, if they have business debt. These are important components for us to know. So again, we can use this information to help guide our clients to get where they want to be with their financial goals. Again, during that first appointment, we ask a ton of questions, and hopefully if we do it right, we make it so that our clients are comfortable asking questions of us as well, and know that our responses will be unbiased and honest. We will track a client's income and expenses. One of the things that I really love about the way that we work, aside from the fact that the limitations are few. Again, Allegheny County resident and over the age of 18. We don't collect bank statements. We don't collect pay stubs. We don't collect tax returns. A lot of counseling agencies do this. And that's for a lot of individuals. And I remember having done this myself years ago when I was a young housing counselor. I hated to have to ask people to bring me 3 years of tax returns. And I would often confess I wouldn't want to have to give mine away to somebody myself. So we use their best estimates for their income, their expenses. We pull their credit report. Now, what we do is we pull a soft pull of their Experian credit report. And a soft pull, in case anyone's not really clear about this, does not affect the score at all. And then we encourage individuals to check their remaining 2 scores through annualcreditreport.com, the free site, which because of COVID, you can access that free score once a week now. It used to be once a year for each of those 3 credit bureaus. We will review your credit report with the individual and make suggestions. And I want to say make suggestions on increasing the score because everyone's credit score can use to be increased. As far as my training goes, credit reports range from 300 to 850, and never in my career have I seen an 850. So because of that, I always remind everybody that there's always room to grow. So we show individuals how to read this. Very often, we kind of talk people out of paying scammers who are pretending to fix my credit for me, that kind of stuff. And we enable individuals, we give them the information that they need to know to pay down their credit cards, to write appropriate letters, to, according to the Fair Debt Collection Acts, have accounts removed from their credit report and so on. They develop their goals. We help fine tune those goals. And then we make a list of their service plans and their next steps. Those goals can always change. Very often when we meet with somebody who 3 months later, they wanted to buy a house, they bought a house, they switch goals and they want something else. They want to work on their savings, something along those lines. And that's absolutely wonderful. Just the note at the bottom is that, again, there are no limitations, and we actually encourage anybody, top to bottom, within an organization to schedule a session, if nothing else, just to see how we do, just to see the inner workings of how we do it, and then to make it easier through your own personal testimony to see if anyone else would be interested in coming to see us. I do want to point out again this financial health assessment and how these questions are very telling for us knowing if somebody wants to work on their small business plan, if somebody needs to work on other issues, rental issues, and the like. So here one of the many ways that a financial counselor can help. And again, this is not financial education in a trivial kind of way. This is actually the real deal. This is financial counseling. We can help track and prioritize and build a budget. Budgets are kind of like bad words, like diets are. But actually, one of the things that I encourage people to do, which I have done personally myself, is I have really closely mapped, and I've got several folks who love this idea. It's not everyone's cup of tea. Closely mapped my spending for 3 months so that I knew down to the penny, this is how much I need to live for a typical month. This is the roof over my head. These are my utility bills, and these are my essentials. And that was kind of nice to know for like a backup plan. That's my safety net if something should happen. And it's also something good to strive for when building a savings account. A lot of folks don't take savings very seriously. And particularly if you're thinking of building a business, having a savings is absolutely crucial. And knowing what you really need in a typical month to get by is very important. So building that budget, tracking your expenses, mapping out short-term and long-term goals. Sometimes the short-term goal is track your spending for the first month, and the long-term goal is so that I can access a business loan. We do, depending upon the need and the desire of the client, we can call about options with them for credit cards. If someone's got a collections account and they don't know how to handle it, we have various levels of assistance we can give. A lot of folks, I like to send them an email saying, these are the questions to ask. And you ask them politely, write down names, and it's astounding how easily you can have a collections account and a delinquent account just removed from your credit report, not by disputing it, but by asking the right questions. Some folks want us to make that call with them. Others are good doing it on their own, and that's wonderful. We do review that credit report, and a credit report, more than anything, in my opinion, more than anything that we cover, there is more misinformation about credit than there is about any other component of what we do. Bottom left in the gray box, we have information about accessing the right bank account. Now, if one actually is interested in becoming a small business owner and accessing capital, having the right type of financial bank account is imperative. One cannot be unbanked and open a business. And it's also surprising. Now, I don't have statistics, even though our programs are all very heavily data-driven. I don't have statistics for how many folks that we work with are actually unbanked, but there are large communities of people who don't trust banks. They don't trust credit unions. They rather have lending circles. And that's a beautiful thing for your community, but it's a tremendous barrier to accessing capital if one needs to open up a business account. We also help make referrals for other public assistance programs, folks who don't know that they can apply for unemployment or for SNAP benefits or for cash assistance, or even CAP programs for utilities and things along those lines. We give clients a sense of empowerment by, again, if they need us to hold their hand, we will, but more often than not, we tell them, here's what you can do, and you can do it. Advice on home ownership and small business processes is something that I'm particularly passionate about. I alluded to this earlier. I was trained as a home ownership counselor years ago. I love helping people march their way towards home ownership. Likewise, I love talking people out of becoming homeowners if they get to that point and realize, wait, maybe I don't want to have to worry about frozen pipes after all. So that's one of the things that we do. We give the good and the bad, whether it's somebody who's interested in opening a business or purchasing a home. You need to look at the whole picture before you jump in. And then finally, we navigate all those feelings that come up when discussing money. And those are very challenging components for us more often than not. So our email address, as you can see on our website or on the bottom of this page.
I'm gonna jump in, Regina, and just say my name is Henry. I'm currently the community affairs specialist for the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation serving Pennsylvania, but I was a founder of the FEC and also a client. And so I just want to re-emphasize Regina's message about everyone should go to at least an initial appointment. And I bet if you do, you're going to say, wow, I want to go to a second and third one too, because this is super helpful and informative. So try it out. It's awesome. Worked for me and it'll work for you too.
Oh, that's wonderful to hear, Henry. Was there anything else on the other side of the desk, though, that you'd like to add in that perhaps I missed out? That's one of, one of our shining examples.
Well, I think the way I always thought about the FEC is that you're getting some very highly professional folks that normally you'd have to spend a whole lot of money in order to have access to. And they're completely focusing on you and your issues and, the best part, your goals. Not what they think your goals should be, but whatever the heck you say they are. And so that's the kind of stuff that normally you got to have $1 million in Mellon Bank to get, but now it's a public service. So I think that's a good way to look at it.
All right, well said, Henry. And one of the things that I love as well, and I believe, Henry, I think we've met it on one occasion, but one thing that I really like is that of the 5 counselors that we've got on board, we are all vastly different individuals. These women are incredibly intelligent and hardworking, and it's wonderful that we can lean on one another, but we also have very different counseling personalities as well. And it's always kind of nice to know that if I'm manning the phones on a particular time and I have somebody with a particular set of questions and I know that they would be best working with Akuma, I can schedule that appointment. Likewise, I know that the other counselors do the same for me as well. And we all have different degrees, again, of knowledge and experience. And I have to admit, I'm not as touchy-feely as some of the other counselors. I'm more matter-of-factly, primarily because, again, as a young counselor, when I was working with foreclosures, I found it was easier to lean on the numbers than on the emotion, because sometimes it was very easy to see making that mortgage payment was a priority, not because I had to tell you it was, but because that's just what the numbers said. So I can be touchy-feely, just so you know, if necessary. But I tend to be more matter-of-fact and numbers-based. And anyway, thank you for that thank you for that, Henry. I appreciate you saying all of that. Would you like me to jump over and let's start talking about business a little bit? Okay, wonderful.
Sounds great.
Okay. One of the first things that we do when we meet with somebody is we ask them, again, what their goals are. And if they do indicate that they want to become an entrepreneur, we will conduct the small business assessment. And it's really a list of like 10 questions, but it is very telling as to their level of involvement, their level of intensity, and the level of need that they'll need to kind of get to that point, okay? I want to remind you that our training as with the NACCC is about business startups and about retirement. However, our job primarily as counselors is to work at the ground floor And when I say the ground floor, that is with regarding personal finances, personal credit, because you really can't, unless, and I apologize if I offend anyone by saying this, unless any of us have been born with a silver spoon in our mouth and have inherited $4 or $5 million, it's really kind of tricky to start a business without having a good grasp on your own personal finances. So one of the first things that we emphasize doing is, even if small business is not your cup of tea, getting your personal finances in order, alrighty? And that means a firm grasp on what's coming in and what's going out. And we do point out to future entrepreneurs that you don't need to have $1 million in the bank to open a business, just like you don't need $1 million in the bank to purchase a home either. But you do need to have a firm grasp on what you have coming in and on what you have going out. In addition to having your finances in order and a savings set aside, and everyone needs to have a savings, business owner or not, particularly business owners, we work on individual credit. Now, I know that I just mentioned this during the slideshow, but this is imperative, because when one is beginning to consider opening a business, you're going to have to rely upon lending money to yourself, essentially. Just as when we were all 16 years old, you couldn't just show up and open up a credit card. Maybe we needed a cosigner, or maybe we just had to slowly start building our credit. Businesses are very much the same. So you need to have your personal finances in order. You need to have your personal credit in order. And then at that point, once somebody is really comfortable with, this is me, this is my personal information, we kind of put up an imaginary wall, because business finances and personal finances do not play together. They don't. They're separate components. Until this personal finances and stable credit and good savings is in place, we don't encourage individuals to jump into a business. Never the two shall meet. We do not borrow from our personal finances for business reasons, and we don't tap into our business finances to pay for that new pair of shoes that we just got. Unless, of course, they're business related shoes, but let's talk about that in just a little bit. So anyway, step 1, get your personal finances in order. Step 2, get your personal credit in order. Step 3, make sure there's a clear distinction between the two. And I personally like to start with baby steps. The first part of my baby steps is teaching somebody how to put together a profit and loss statement. Now, a lot of people who are considering opening a business think they need to hire an accountant or to have several zeros after their bank account, and that's not necessarily so. The simplest profit and loss statement can be on a pad of paper like this, folded in half, profit on one side, loss on the other. I've seen people purchase homes with homemade profit and loss statements and modify mortgages with homemade profit and loss statements. They have to be backed up by bank statements and a paper trail, but that's where it all starts, is sending out a template, teaching somebody, just like you teach them to track their spending, how to put together a profit and loss statement. Once they're comfortable with that step, the next thing is establishing a legal entity. Now, this is something that we do not do personally, but all of the counselors with the FEC have a stockpile of information behind us. And some of the places that we refer out to, some of the many that we have, is we've got the URA, their small business resources, and their small business loan department. Chatham University has the Center for Women's Entrepreneurial Studies. There's a Pittsburgh Small Business Lending Network. There's SCORE, which is an organization that does mentoring for small businesses as well. So there are organizations that we refer out to depending upon the need of the individual client. But again, we can take them to a certain point with making sure their personal finances are stable, helping them build that wall between the two, introducing the profit and loss statements, and then helping them spread out with referral sources. Now, we don't just send them out and say, call the URA, see you later, all righty? Our job does not end there. We can review loan documents when they get to the point that they can qualify for a small business loan. We'll look at credit offers when it's time to open up a business credit card for them, teach them how to compare different offers, explain how APRs work. I mean, there's no end to what we can do with the information that they get. So in addition, the Small Business Administration is another one, but there are organizations out there that once somebody is fiscally sound on a personal level and start slowly building that business, get their EIN, establish their legal entity, open up a bank account. And these aren't all necessarily in a prescribed order. They can open up a bank account first, and then they can get the EIN. So they're not, it's not a fixed order, but we can assist them with every step along the way. And again, there are certain banking entities that are friendlier towards business loans and towards business accounts than others. One of the other things too, I'd be negligent if I didn't mention this, is that even if someone should follow those prescribed steps, there are a lot of barriers to accessing business capital, a lot of barriers out there. One of the big ones is discrimination, and not just because of the protected classes kind of discrimination. It's a fact that minorities forego applying for loans because the anticipation of not being approved is there. Discrimination is a barrier, being unbanked and underbanked, which is why one of the first things we talk about when someone tells us they want to open a business, if they don't have a relationship, a personal relationship with the bank, now's the time to get it. And we share the information from Bank On because there's a beautiful list of dependable, low fee, wonderful banks. The lack of an established credit profile is a barrier to accessing capital. Poor credit profile, the complexity of the process, and again, the time investment. Those are all areas where the FEC counselors can step in. We can help build that credit profile. We can help point the way to becoming banked. The process can be a bit challenging, and the time investment is definitely there. And a good example I have for that is recently, I'm sure that you're all aware of the Comcast grant that was just available, just closed. I think the 14th was the last day that they accepted those applications for that $10,000 grant. But it was not an easy application to fill out. And so the counselors, we donated our time and went to different sites to help folks with these applications to know that they could check off certain boxes and see what they might be eligible for. So although we are not business planners, retirement planners, or mortgage lenders, we can help walk with folks all the course along that way, and answer any questions, again, including reviewing loan documents, explaining APR, seeing if something is actually affordable. Again, this goes back to my love of the numbers, and that is that, it's very easy to look at what you have coming in, what that payment is, the percentage of that payment of your gross monthly income. Can you afford it? It's an easy yes or no.
That I think our viewers might find helpful. So you kind of touched on this a little bit, but just to restate. So say I'm a small business applying for some type of grant. You would essentially provide assistance through filling out that form, or as like a review once I'd refilled that form for clarity.
Precisely. Both, preferably.
Perfect.
Yeah, but it's to the degree of comfort that that individual has. Exactly. And some of the applications are particularly challenging. They really are. And when I make note of that to clients, I don't do that in order to frighten them away. To frighten them. It's just, statistically there are barriers, and some of the barriers are the amount of paperwork that goes into things. And sometimes the paper trail that I was kind of boasting that we don't need to see those tax returns and the pay stubs, but a business lender will need to see those. And so we kind of help them get that stuff together. And again, our work is kind of like on the back end, but yeah, without a doubt, we carry that educational component all the way to the front. APR is a great example of something that just is baffling to the average viewer, and that's why those are the kind of things that I think that we assist folks with. It is very helpful, very helpful. I kind of want to offer not necessarily an apology, because I feel like I'm beating our drum, but the fact of the matter is it really does all start with the foundation of having a firm understanding of your personal finances, your personal budget, your personal savings, because that's the diving board that's going to permit you to jump into that pool of beautiful capitalism.
To echo Henry as well, I've myself taken advantage of some of the services offered by the FEC, so I can personally attest to that. I've ended up taking a lot of those practices and learnings into my my personal finances as well. So,
Here, here. I had my first appointment last week. So,
Oh my goodness. And I didn't get any of you. I wondered if I should, But, and my hope is that you all had experience with different counselors, because we really are, I mean, we're so very different, but we really depend upon one another greatly. Yeah, we really do. And this is our website, the Pittsburgh Financial Empowerment Center website, and people can schedule directly on our website. One of my favorite parts of this is truly, I mentioned this earlier, that our information is all data driven. And the fact of the matter is, I'm not sure if I can switch my screen or if it kept up with this or not, but the impacts that we have made, and these aren't numbers that we put in arbitrarily. When we pull people's credit report, it automatically will tell you they went up 34 points. The same goes with the savings and the amount of, and to think that really in the short period of time, and Pittsburgh is an expert city. As far as the FEC goes. I don't know if anybody knew about that or not. Kind of a big deal, because we've actually only really been in action since 2019, but other cities learn from what we do. And just in that short period of time, we've had over $1 million in savings, over $2 million in debt reduced. So yeah, we've helped some folks do some wonderful things. And I can't say enough about what we do. Truly.
thank you so much, Regina. Really excited that you were able to join us today, and we hope that people who watch, who have either joined us live or will watch this video, are able to take advantage of the FEC here locally. Thank you, everyone, so much for joining. We're ending almost right on time, so we'll see you at the next Resource Roundup.